Hello and welcome to another episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. Today is Friday, August 26th, and this is episode number 33. This has been a very busy week. I say very busy week, but it's technically not over yet. So Gamescom is the European version of E3, but it's kind of part E3, part PAX, where a couple of days are industry-only, media, journalists, and businesses go in there, check out games, see all that sort of stuff. But then the last 2 days is all about the consumer. So they invite people from all around the world to buy tickets to go in, check out the booths and play games and all sorts of stuff. So the business stuff is sort of just wrapping up today, and then the next 2 days will be all consumer focused. So there won't be any sort of big reveals per se as it has been over the last few days, but there will be a number of stories coming out about games and people playing them and all that sort of stuff. But we have an absolutely loaded show today, so we are going to get into it. And we're going to talk about the first thing is that Death Stranding has come to PC via Game Pass. Now, I say come to PC because this news actually released about an hour after we recorded the last episode. So this was released last Friday night to say it was coming, and then it dropped earlier this week. It dropped on the 23rd, so it came out on Tuesday. It is just Death Stranding for PC, which is already around. It's been around for a while on Steam, but it's now available inside of a PC Game Pass. It is the exact same version of the game. It still comes with all the Half-Life themed, accoutrement that you could get through the Steam release. So all of that is still present and accounted for. It's just now included as part of the membership. There we go. So it is still just there. It's the same game, as I said. It's just now now available through Game Pass. It's interesting, that this one was added just on its own. It's not part of a big release. Obviously, Microsoft had a few big things to say about it. With it being a sort of a higher profile thing than just like your average, game that's being added. But it is what it is. Moving on to some Disney and Marvel news, we have some updates for Disney Plus Day. So Disney Plus Day is happening on September 8th. It is the annual day where Disney release a whole bunch of information about their various, programming, future plans for Disney Plus. This is also, where Thor: Love and Thunder will debut onto the platform on that day. So I say Thor: Love and Thunder, but there's actually a fair bit more than just that. So specifically, there will be Thor: Love and Thunder will premiere on that day. In addition to that, the Assembled, the making of Thor: Love and Thunder, which is sort of the behind-the-scenes documentary that Marvel put together for all their productions, that will be available on the same day. The other thing too is that Thor will be in IMAX. It'll have its IMAX presentation, so that'll make the 15th Marvel movie available in IMAX on Disney+. In addition to that, there will be the documentary Obi-Wan Kenobi: A Jedi's Return. That'll be available on that day as well. That's the Star Wars version of the Assembled thing. The Mandalorian, they call it, the Disney Gallery. For Book of Boba Fett, I think it was just called the Book of Boba Fett Making of or something like that. But that'll be there as well, so behind the scenes of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Frozen and Frozen 2 are getting their sing-along versions, so if you've not had enough of either of those movies, they'll be available as well. There's a new Simpsons short airing on the day, focusing on Lisa. There's the first series called Terra Incognita, which is a Latin American show debuting on Disney+. So that's a whole new thing that they've announced for the day. In addition, Pinocchio, the live-action adaptation of the animation, will be available as well. She-Hulk will obviously be continuing. Cars on the Road will debut on that day, which we knew about. Growing Up, it's a show created by Brie Larson and a group called Culture House. That'll be there as well. There's a new show called Epic Adventures with Bertie Gregory. That's there. So there's a whole bunch of stuff all coming on the one day. So it is very nice for them, to be adding, Thor and a few other bits and pieces as well. In terms of, when these things are going, so Thor and the associated documentary will be 5 p.m. as normal. The rest of the stuff should be earlier in the day, because they are tying it into the promotion that they're doing inside the Disney parks in the US and other things around the world. So it won't just be a single available today only, 5 p.m. midnight for everyone else. It'll be rolling out throughout the day. So just be aware of that if you do plan on watching something live. Speaking of live, overnight Nintendo hosted a Treehouse Live presentation focusing on Splatoon 3 and Harvestella. Let's just say straight away, this is the most bizarre combination of games to be bundled together in a presentation that I've ever seen. And I've seen the Nintendo digital event where they were puppets, so they did a deep dive into Splatoon and Harvestella, for about an hour and a half. So they dedicated the first 55 minutes to Splatoon, and then the remaining sort of half hour-ish or so was all about Harvestella. So it is here, you can watch it. I will post the link here in the chat if you do wish to watch it for yourself. The Splatoon stuff is divided into two parts. The first is all about the single player, so the missions and things like that. And then the second portion is all about Turf War. It's kind of interesting that they did it purely because Nintendo have done it again. They've shot everyone in the foot with hands-on. So earlier in the week, I was able to go hands-on with Splatoon 3 down at Nintendo's office. So I got to play, the first 3 levels of the single player. I get to play a couple of rounds of Turf War, and I got to play a couple of rounds of Salmon Run Next Wave. So all 3 sort of the main modes of Splatoon 3. And I do have a big hands-on here for it. The Rise of the Mammalians story mode, the single player mode, it's sort of very cutesy and charming like the original Splatoon 1, but it has more of a Octo expansion feel in terms of its challenge and its sort of variety of things. I loved it. I thought it was great, but I'm more of a fan of that style of game than I am of just straight multiplayer. The other thing that was interesting is in Salmon Run, the map we were on was one of the new maps. It was Sockeye Reef, and we got nothing but new, bosses to sort of battle. Didn't get a chance to see the kaiju salmonid in person there, but it is what it is. But it was very, very cool. But again, so Nintendo were very particular about what we could talk about, footage if we recorded any, what we could show. And they did it with Nintendo Switch Sports. They did it with Mario Strikers earlier in the year, where they're saying, cool, you're gonna see it, but don't talk about A, B, and C here. These, we want people to be surprised about this, and then they turn around a day later and announce all that stuff themselves. It's very difficult for me to sort of keep honoring that agreement, because every time I do it, I'm doing the right thing by Nintendo. They turn around and undercut what I'm trying to do. So I do have, as I said, the written preview, which is up. If you want to watch some footage, which does have more because they do spoil things, that is available in the Nintendo Treehouse Live presentation. Moving into the world of Sony, we've got 2 stories. One is good, one is not so good. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge controller. So this is a pro-level controller for the PlayStation 5. So this is not a new version of that controller that you have to get in order to, play new games. This is just a refined version of that controller. Looking at it front on, you'll see these two little nubs here. That's because the sticks are now replaceable. So, a lot of people are saying that their sticks on their PlayStation 5 controllers are not lasting as long as they did on the PlayStation 4 controller. We see it with Switch fans, a lot of people say they suffer from Joy-Con drift. So PlayStation have said, cool, on this new controller you can, literally buy replacement sticks, you swap them out, and it's not just the little plastic cap, it's the entire module. So you'll be able to replace the stick if it has problems, if you drop it and break it, or it's maybe just not operating the way it should, you can replace it yourself. Speaking of the caps though, you can replace it, so it'll come with 3 types: the standard sort of type, a taller one, and a shorter dome, to give you more level of control in how the stick feels under your hand. The other thing too is there'll be these programmable buttons on the back. They are a little weird for me. I mean, obviously I haven't gone hands-on with it yet because it's not out, but the position of them just seems a little weird. I would have thought somewhere more, to where people are holding onto the controller would have made more sense, but hey, what do I know? The other thing too is that the adaptive triggers will also have levels, so you can have like a full press down, a half press down, or a quarter press down. All this means is that if it's set to say the position 1 here, a quarter, you only have to basically just tap the button and it acts as if it was a full pull all the way down. This is one of those things that FPS players will really get a kick out of, because they'll get a bit more control for it. The USB Type-C charging port now has little latches on the side of it, so you can, when you connect to the cable that comes with it, keep it connected. It won't just pull out randomly. So it's one of those things that's been designed for players who need, will want to keep themselves connected and not cause any sort of potential issue. The controller also does support programmable save states, if you will. So you'll be able to say, cool, I want these buttons to press a little differently, when I'm in a racing game. But when I'm playing like Horizon, I want them to be different, whatever it happens to be. So you'll be able to modify it to suit your individual preferences. It is a very welcome controller. Obviously, Xbox have had their own one for a number of years now with their Elite. There are, pro branded controllers outside of Sony for the PlayStation. I myself have the Nacon Revolution 3, which is essentially, it's essentially the DualShock 4, but the left stick and the D-pad have just swapped places. I prefer that. I'm not a big fan of the stick placement on PlayStation. I never have been, but that's me. But yeah, so they're finally doing it, which I think is a very, very good thing. Moving on to the bad news, the PlayStation 5 is soon going to cost more money. So this news released last night, and the reaction from everyone was pretty much no, and varying degrees of swearing. So according to Jim Ryan, who's the president and CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment, so he's the head of PlayStation, the cost of everything has gone up so much that Sony need to accommodate by raising the cost of the PlayStation 5 by $50 here in Australia. So what that means is that the current sort of model with the disc drive, which is $749.95 as its recommended retail price, will now become $799.95, and the discless version, which was $150 cheaper at $599.95, is now $649.95. So the full statement from Jim Ryan reads as, "The global economic environment is a challenge that many of you around the world are no doubt experiencing. We're seeing high global inflation rates as well as adverse currency trends impacting consumer and creating pressure on many industries. Based on these challenging economic conditions, Sony Interactive Entertainment has made the difficult decision to increase the recommended retail price of the PlayStation 5 in select markets across the Europe, Middle East, and Africa, which is what they call EMEA, Asia Pacific, which is what we are, which is APAC, and Latin America, which is LATAM, as well as Canada. There will be no price increase in the United States. While this price increase is a necessity, given the current global economic environment and its impacts on the Sony Interactive Entertainment's business, our top priority continues to be improving the PlayStation 5 supply situation so that as many players as possible can experience everything that is the PlayStation 5 and what's still to come. Thank you for your continued support. Now, I will say this, and I say this with absolutely no care in the world, but that statement is complete and utter bullshit. The cost of a PS5 in the USA is not changing, which that was one of the things many people just sort of jumped up and said, hang on, why is that not changing? Why are we paying more here in Australia, but they're not paying more for themselves? So I did see somebody attempt to state that the reason why is because the tax is added in America afterwards, which is true. That is how that works for them. They do it at point of sale, so you'll see a ticket price that will say this is $60. You'll go to pay for it, it'll be $64 because they add tax at the register, whereas in Australia tax is included in the price. So why it's stupid, apart from the fact the price has gone up, is that PlayStation as a business unit, as part of the Sony Corporation, in the first quarter of the fiscal year, which for them being a Japanese company is April 1st through June 30, they made approximately 6 billion Australian dollars in 3 months. The Sony Corporation, which is some 140 odd divisions within inside it, so that's Sony Music, that's Sony Pictures, the Columbia TriStar, the Venom movie and all that sort of stuff. Sony TVs, Sony phones, Sony laptops, cameras, all that sort of stuff. In that first 3 months, they made some 24 billion Australian dollars in that period. So for a company to say, hey, after we've made $24 billion, we have to up the price of our PlayStation 5, just comes across as utterly gross and penny pinching. It is more than likely this decision has come from the US, because Japan wouldn't make a decision like this, globally. PlayStation, unfortunately, isn't operated out of Japan anymore. They operate out of America. So America leads the way there. Nintendo is, for example, based out of Japan. They run everything from Japan, and they do have offices around the world. Japan is still what drives their overall decision making. That is what it used to be for PlayStation until a few years ago when they decided America was going to be that. The price increase is stupid. It shouldn't exist, and the fact that it does is an insult to people everywhere. There are a few things to note here. Nintendo have already said a couple of weeks ago that they had no plans to increase the price of the Switch, because Nintendo is very, very frugal with their costs anyway. So Nintendo generally makes a profit off most of their hardware at launch. It's very rare they sell at a loss. The Xbox have come out today and said they've got no plans to raise the price on their consoles. But given that Xbox don't even need you to buy a console anymore to play their games, I don't think that's an issue that they're worried about. You can stream your Xbox games to your phone. You can stream your Xbox game to your computer, to your TV. If you have one of the new Samsung TVs, the Xbox app is installed on that. So, they're not necessarily needing you to buy a console anymore to buy the games. So it's just one of the things that they offer that way. So Sony, doing it. They're not the only hardware maker doing it. The Oculus Quest 2 was announced to get a price bump, a couple of weeks ago. It's going up by $100. That's another one where it's like, your costs aren't that much anymore, so this makes no sense. I'm not gonna rant on it anymore, but the only thing that they've not clarified is if anyone's got orders in now waiting for a PlayStation 5 to be delivered because of, the fact they can't make enough of them, is if those prices will be honoured at the price they were ordered at, or if the prices are going to increase. There's no word on that yet. Sony Australia haven't said anything about, this increase to the price. It's only just come out of Sony Interactive out of America. So we'll just have to wait and see. Moving on to some games now, we're going to talk a little bit about Forspoken. So out of nowhere the other day, Square Enix dropped a new 10-minute gameplay trailer for Forspoken. So I won't play the entire thing here just because it is, 10 minutes and it is worth sort of checking out. I put the story in the chat there for Twitch. What I want to sort of show is that we actually do now get to see some combat and some exploration that's not sort of, the character running across a barren world. Frey, that's her name. So, she's still running across a pretty barren world here. There's not much going on, but it's all sorts of smooth and interesting. But if I jump ahead to where there's the combat. So the world itself is corrupted. So any human who, tries to live out in the wilds gets corrupted and mutated into these beings. Animals get corrupted as well, and they become sort of, feral and, all that sort of stuff. But, just watching this footage, it just looks beautiful. It looks absolutely stunning. I'm not convinced on the gameplay. I think it's going to be a very shallow game combat-wise. But, it does look incredible. I did also have a chuckle at one point during the trailer. Where are we? If we go back to here. So a lot of game companies will make these sort of, very bland white rooms, and put characters in there to test animations and, how does a character climb on a box? We'll stick them on this grey bland box. And when we'll see in a moment, she runs up these stairs, this thing here, not this one in the next shot. And I just sort of looked at it and went, it just reminds me of those bland grey rooms where there's nothing in them because it's all sorts of temperate. This is the shot here. With how white and sort of grey everything is, it just reminded me of that, and I just thought it was quite funny. But yeah, so, we now have a proper 10-minute gameplay look for it. The game's still now on track for its January 24 release for both PlayStation 5 and PC. There is a chance it'll get delayed again because, they keep delaying that game. It's unlikely, but, considering it was supposed to be out in October and it was supposed to be out in May and then it was supposed to be out, given how many times they've delayed it, until it's actually, out, we'll, withhold judgment on that one. Moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about the Future Games Showcase that also happened this week. So, Future Games Showcase is operated by Games Radar, which is a UK publication. This is I think it's the third one they've done this year for their thing. It's basically a direct, but they, feature a lot of games from a lot of publishers. Sometimes it's, world premieres. Sometimes it's world premiere. And sometimes it's just, updates to other things. As I predicted a couple of weeks ago, they did have their virtual show floor where they just threw a bunch of games in this random room for whatever reason, and things like that. This show was hosted by Kratos and Freya from God of War, so Christopher Judge and Danielle Bussetti. So we have some things, I've split this list up into what is available now, what has released dates, what has released windows, and then what is undated. So the out now thing is specifically about, what games are either playable today because this is an update for a game that's available, or the game released during the show. So Hypercharged Unboxed is a shooter game, but it's set, in like the toy. So basically, it's like Toy Story had guns, right? That's out on PC and Switch now, but they announced that it's coming to Xbox and PlayStation. Wizardry: The Five Ordeals is available now in English on PC. It wasn't before, so that's a dungeon crawler game. Age of Darkness, we also got an update. This is an early access title, so it's not fully released yet. Thymesia is also available now. It came out just the other week. It is also available on Switch in some countries via cloud streaming. That is not the case here in Australia, though. Crossfire Legion is another early access title. They dropped a massive update, adding in the final 3 vehicles for the game and a few other factions and such. And then we move into the dated releases. So this is in order of release. So Aliens Fireteam Elite Pathogen is an expansion for the game, which has been out for a number of years, and this is dropping next week. Sunday Gold is a very unique RPG for PC that is coming out on September 13th, but there is a prologue available now on Steam, so you can get a sort of a taste of what is to come. Also on the 13th of September will be SCP Secret Files for PC. The console version of that game is coming sometime in 2023. 2 days later, on the 15th, for both PC and Xbox, will be Grid Force Mask of the Goddess. On the 27th of September, Hoko Life will arrive for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. Solstice is set to arrive on the 20th of September for both PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S, with a demo being made available during the show on PC. The Last Worker also got its release date as well for PC, being October 19. The Chant, we actually got the release date for this just a few days before Gamescom kicked off, but that's coming on November 3rd for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. That is a sort of third-person meditative horror. So, check out the trailer for that one. A Little to the Left is coming to PC and Mac on November 8th. It is a puzzle game where there's no timers, no high scores to go for. You just solve puzzles. The only problem is that there is a little cat that will occasionally pop up and just mess up all your progress. The game is also coming to Switch and mobile devices, but there's no date for those versions yet. Floodland is launching into early access on November 15th for PC. Goat Simulator 3, we got our first gameplay trailer for that one. And I will sort of just put it on here because it does, it looks just, bananas. So the Goat Simulator game, or series now, I suppose, is all about, not so much just causing as much chaos as you can, but it's sort of doing what you want to do and not really having to worry about, specific things. So, yeah, you're a goat, you cause mischief. This game is only for PC, Xbox Series X and S, and PlayStation 5. The first game is on every platform, but this new one, the sequel, which is called Goat Simulator 3, is only available on the next-gen hardware. So there's an ancient order of goats at some point. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on for that one. On the 17th as well, we'll also see Ship of Fools arrive for Switch, PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. A day later, on the 18th, we'll see the Dark Pictures anthology The Devil in Me release for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. I do have a preview for that one up on the site as well. So if you are interested in that, we do talk about that one. And then next year, so from the showcase, the 18th of November was the last game talked about. Deliver Us Mars got a new trailer, which is coming out in February. And then we get into the, games that have sort of windows, so, October, maybe spring 2022, things like that. I won't go through all of them because it is just a big list. But yeah, the showcase was pretty well done. As always, there's, enough scripted banter between the hosts to make it sort of enjoyable. We do know that Christopher Judge is a big gamer. He loves playing games. If the name sounds familiar, and it's not because he played Kratos, he was Teal'c in Stargate for 12 years in the end. So he's known for that as well. It is sort of I think it was like an hour and a half, so it's a bit of a shorter one in the grand scheme of things, but it's still sort of worth checking out if you have the time to watch it. The day before the Future Games showcase took place was Gamescom Opening Night Live, which is technically the unofficial kickoff to Gamescom. I know that it is produced, by Gamescom as well. They put some money towards it, but it's not at the best time for the rest of the world because they do it as a nighttime thing for Germany. So yeah, but then there was a number of things. One of the ones that sort of grabbed my attention was the fact that Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the movie, is getting a video game adaptation. So as you might expect, there's a lot of silly things going on in this. There is a trailer for it, but it's not really a gameplay trailer. It's more of a CGI trailer. We do get a few shots of gameplay in there. But what's interesting is it's very much Dead by Daylight, Friday the 13th, things like that. In fact, the creative director of the game is the creative director from the Friday the 13th game. So it's definitely connected in that regard. Now, it is coming in sometime in early 2023. We don't know if that's, January 1st or, March 31st, just early 2023 for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. But the reason why I think is very, very cool is because the game itself isn't a 4v1 like Friday the 13th or Dead by Daylight, but it's a 4v3. So 3 players will take on the role of the killer clowns, and 4 players will take on the role of the survivors, or, those trying to escape. So, excuse me, it does look cool. How it shakes out, will it find an audience with its, 4v3 mechanic? Will it dethrone Dead by Daylight? We have to wait and see. The fact that it's, based off an 80s cheeseball movie is probably the most interesting thing that it has going for it right now, because, that's not exactly, a terrifying movie. Obviously, if you are afraid of clowns, then it's, probably the most horrifying thing you'll ever see in your life. But yeah, it's just an interesting sort of thing, and it's not something that I was expecting to see at all. So there you go. Also, during the showcase, we got the first public reveal of gameplay for Scars Above. So Scars Above is a game coming from publisher Prime Matter, which is a subsidiary of PlayOn, which is a subsidiary of Embracer, and it looks really, really cool. Now, I say publicly available because I got to see gameplay for this last year. I could see a cutscene and some gameplay. But basically, what is happening is that, there is an object that has appeared above the planet. They call it the Metahedron. It's basically an upside-down pyramid, right? And you see it in there in the trailer. It's causing things to go a little wonky, so they go out and try and investigate what's going on. The game itself looks incredible visually. It is an Unreal Engine 5 game, so it's been in development for a number of years. And yeah, it is a third-person shooter adventure game. I think they'll get to some gameplay in a moment here in the trailer. They still have this weird thing with eyes in these games where the eyes don't look quite right. But yeah, so it's this sort of exploration shooter adventure game. Here we're seeing some combat and that as well. So the gun that you have can actually change elemental types. So you can shoot ice from, you can shoot fire from, and all that sort of stuff. It does look very, very cool. As I said, it is one of those sort of games where it's going to be dependent on the story and will it grab players. I think it will. It does have some stuff going for it I think many players will connect with. It's also meant to be like a solo game. There's no multiplayer announced for it as yet. There's no co-op or anything like that. So it could just be a very, very fun game for people to enjoy on their own. The game is expected to launch sometime in the first sort of half of next year. There's no more closer window than that. But it's doing PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. So make of that what you will. Another game from the showcase that sort of surprised me and was not one that I was expecting was the game Where Winds Meet. So Where Winds Meet is a game being developed out of China. And the best thing that I can sort of classify it as, if I skip sort of the first bit of the thing here, is think Chinese Assassin's Creed. That's sort of the vibe that I get from it when I watch the trailer here. So NetEase Games are the ones publishing it, and they are a big sort of mobile game publisher and developer. And this is their first big console game they're doing for a while. So it is set within the same sort of same sort of time zone as the Ten Kingdoms, mythology or history of China, which we see all the time. So Dynasty Warriors, Romance of the Three Kingdoms. It's sort of that sort of that sort of time frame of things. But yeah, it just reminds me of sort of an Assassin's Creed-esque game. We'll see some actual exploration out in the world in a moment, right? That sort of reminded me a bit of Eagle Vision, right? So there's this whole, I don't know, it just looks and feels like Chinese Assassin's Creed, and I'm not saying that to be insensitive to Assassin's Creed or to the developers saying they didn't make their own original thing, but it's like if Assassin's Creed was set in China, this would be the type of game I'd want it to be, and these guys have done that, right? They've developed the game, making full use of the whole mythology and the history of China with obviously that's probably not a legitimate thing that people have done in history, but they're making full use of the story and all of the the mechanics that people who watch movies based around this time period are aware of. Yeah, but I don't know, it just reminds me of it. I mean, I suppose you could argue it's probably more Ghost of Tsushima than Assassin's Creed, but I just think it looks amazing. I can't wait to see more of this one, because they're doing a lot more than just being a generic hack and slash game like we've seen a few Chinese studios come out with. We don't have any details about when it's expected to release. We know it's coming to PC sometime next year, but we don't have a window beyond that, unfortunately. Taking a step out of the world of games for just a moment, just because we need to have a palate cleanser in between all that good stuff. SteelSeries have announced a new line or new expansion to their Arctis Nova range of headsets. So the Arctis Nova range kicked off with what I'm wearing. I'm wearing the Arctis Nova 7 Pro, which comes with a sort of mixing deck, and I have the Xbox version that you can connect to your Xbox and all that. You can also connect it to a PC if you so desire. This is a very expensive headset though, it's a few $100s. The big thing with the new range is that they are more affordable. So there's the Arctis Nova 7, the 5 and the 1. The 3 and the 1. So yeah, so there's the Arctis Pro 7, which is what I have, and then the Arctis Nova 7, which is sort of the base one. So with the 7, this is a wireless headset. This is the one that's going to cost you a bit of money. But what it does is it allows for you to have two Bluetooth audio streams at once. So you could say have it connected to your phone and your Switch. If you're someone who games on your Switch, you can have the audio from the voice chat app from Nintendo on your phone and the audio from the game mixing in the headset. It also works with their Sonar audio suite, so you can program the equalizer levels to find the volume setting that really works for you. Obviously you can't do that if you have a Mac or you don't have a computer, because the software is Windows only, but once you've programmed it in, it will remember all that. Much like this one here, there is a microphone built into the side of the headset. It's there, but it has all the same things. It does also offer a version of active noise cancellation through the microphone. So if you are using it, it'll cut out all sort of the background noise that some mics do pick up, and to process that to make it it's basically just picking up your voice and nothing else. Stepping down a level in terms of the release order, there's the Nova 3. The Nova 3 has the same basic headset shape, using the same headband, I should say, for the headset, and a few other bits and pieces. It also has, the internal noise cancelling microphone. It has RGB lighting when you connect it to some devices. But the reason why this one is interesting, it is a USB-C only headset. So with the one above it, it is a wireless headset. You can connect it straight through Bluetooth to some devices, or through the included dongle to, say, your PlayStation or Switch. This one is USB Type-C only. If you have an older computer that doesn't have a USB Type-C, they do include a USB Type-C to USB Type-A adapter. But if you have an Xbox and you want this headset, you're out of luck. Unless you happen to find a USB Type-C to 3.5mm connector, you will not be able to use this headset on your Xbox, because it does not support anything that the Xbox does. So it also means that you can't connect it to your your older, iPhone or Android phone through the 3.5mm jack. Android phones you might be okay with because most of them have USB Type-C, but beyond that, you can't really do anything for it. And then finally, the Arctis Nova 1 is the basic headset. It has the same headband, it has the same ear cups, 40 millimeter drivers inside. It just doesn't have sort of noise cancellation on the microphone. It doesn't have RGB lighting, and it does use a 3.5mm connector. So it will connect to every platform around through either an adapter, say for iPhones or your Android phones, or just straight into the headphone jack on every other platform. Price-wise, the Nova 1, $139. The Nova 3, $199. That's a mistype. It's definitely not a $4,000 headset. It's $399. So if you're looking for a new headset, SteelSeries have been quietly building up a pedigree of good headsets over the years. The microphone in this one isn't the best. Unfortunately, it does have some issues. So either of the two, the 7 or the 3, with their noise cancellation stuff on the microphone should fix some of those issues up. But if you're a casual gamer, you're not really worried about having to provide crystal clear communications while you and your mates take down a massive boss or something, the Nova 1 will be just perfect as well. They are super comfortable. I can wear this one for a couple of hours without even sort of realizing it's still on my head. It's only because it has a cord that attaches to the dock that I realize that I still actually have it on. So it's just something to be aware of there. Right, moving on, we're going to go back into the world of games. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the re-reveal of Dead Island 2. So Dead Island 2 was announced like 7 or 8 years ago, if not a bit longer, at the PlayStation press conference at E3, back when PlayStation still did those things. It of course had the guy jogging down the street while the world was sort of falling apart behind him, until he too succumbed to his virus infected body and became one of the Walking Dead as well. The reason why that game went AWOL is purely because development didn't go well with the company it was with. They rebooted it somewhere else, it didn't work, and then Dambuster Studios picked it up. Dambuster Studios won't be a name most people will know off the top of their heads. It's a complicated thing. So Dambuster Studios were also known as Crytek UK for a number of years when Crytek owned them. They're now owned by THQ Nordic. Before they were Crytek UK, they were Free Radical Design. And Free Radical Design was started up by the core team from the GoldenEye development at Rare when they left to do their own thing. They started up Free Radical Design. They made Time Splitters, that series, as well as the Second Sight game. Then they made Haze for Ubisoft. Didn't really do so well. Then they bounced around providing support, for Crytek for a while. And then when they got bought out by THQ Nordic, they developed Homefront: The Revolution, which was a decent game. It had some technical issues early on, but it was pretty decent. Since that game released, the studio's been really, really quiet. Now, this is why it's complicated. Free Radical Design has been spun up again as another studio, with some of the folks from Dambuster going back to Free Radical. So while Free Radical is back and they are working on Time Splitters, the core team at Dambuster have been working on Dead Island 2. I will say this straight away. Dead Island 2, stupid name for the game because it is set in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is not an island. Los Angeles is on the western coast of the United States of America. It borders the sea, but calling Los Angeles an island is an outright fabrication. I get why they're keeping the name because they want to keep the series alive, but it just seems a bit weird to be calling it Dead Island 2 and it not being set on an island. It would be like calling a game Holden Adventure Racing, which exists, that's on Nintendo 64 and that, but the game features Ford cars instead. Doesn't really, change things, but it's just, a weird naming convention. Thanks, Tabs. It's one of those sort of things with the free radical trajectory over the years. It's been a bumpy one for them. I mean, the main Crytek studio did Crysis 1, 2, and 3 for PC, but it was Crytek UK that did the console ports. So if you're playing Crysis 1, 2, or 3 on your Switch, they're done by Saber Interactive, but those original console builds were done by, what was Free Radical Design. So yeah, another little tidbit. Right, back to Dead Island though. I will not be able to show you this because it is a gated trailer, because it is zombie filled and blood and all that sort of stuff. And they did do a gameplay trailer, which again is even more zombie filled. But basically, there are 4 survivors that you play as. So in the trailer, we got to see Jacob. He's one of. They have not detailed the other 3 yet, just that, he's one of them. The 4 characters that you get to play as, though, they are immune to the virus. So they are infected, but they're not turning. So if you do watch the CGI trailer, I will pop the story here in the chat. If you do watch the trailer, very early on, Jacob, checks his eye to see, okay, I'm still infected. What's sort of the level of it? What is interesting though is that their infection provides them with abilities and buffs. It's very much like Dying Light 2 that released earlier this year. The character there was infected, but they were able to control it a little bit, but eke some of the benefits of being infected. In that game, though, if you didn't manage it, it could take you over and you would, lose the game. There's no word on if that'll be the case here. We do know, though, however, that the game is coming out on February 3rd next year for all platforms except Switch. It is, unfortunately, exclusive on PC to the Epic Game Store. That thing, it doesn't make sense to me why they do that, but, that's what it is. In terms of actual details about why, there's a virus in Los Angeles and all that, we don't know. They've not given any information about it yet. But, it looks very cool. The first Dead Island game became a bit of a cult hit because of how sort of, not broken, but how buggy it was at times. Whether or not this one will do well, we have to wait and see. I do have, high expectations from the developer because they do have, a good history with the work they've done. We'll just have to wait and see about, will Dead Island 2 actually elevate the series, or will it be more of the same sort of stuff that they've done? The same, it's okay but not great sort of thing that the series has had. Because there was also that weird semi-spin-off thing that they tried pushing out quickly that was an absolute dumpster fire. So, yeah. Moving on to some more release date news, we actually have a few release dates for a number of games. And one of them is that Gotham Knights has a new release date. And they've done a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 thing and moved the date up. So originally, Gotham Knights was due to launch on October 25 for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. It is now launching on the 21st, so it's moving up 4 days. Obviously, it's not quite a bigger jump as it was for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. That jumped forward 2 months. But yeah, the fact that this one is, releasing a few days earlier is very, very cool. Part of that news was a new trailer, which is focusing on the villains of the game. So we got to see, Mr. Freeze, Harley Quinn, and Clayface. To my recollection, Clayface didn't appear in any of the Arkham series. I honestly don't think he did, but it's been a while since I've played those games, so who knows? He may be in there at some level. Calendar Man was in there, so Clayface should have been. But yeah. It's still coming, in October. It's just coming a few days early. It looks very, very cool. Some people have been a little, judgy on the visuals, especially because they dropped PS4 and Xbox One to sort of prioritize the next generation. I haven't played it. I haven't seen it, in person being played. I've only seen, video footage of it. And unfortunately, video is not subjective, but it's you always have to take it with a grain of salt, because you anytime you see a video presentation online, it's going to be a compressed video. If you watch something on YouTube, YouTube does compression of the video. The video itself may be uploaded at the best quality that the people making it can, but YouTube will compress it for streaming, because, you know, they have to be able to stream it on a very small number of screens, so, you know, iPhone screens and all that sort of stuff. It has to be fast to load, so the video can't be too bulky. So they do everything they can to optimize the streaming side of it, because that is the experience, that is the product that they're delivering. So the quality of the video will be impacted. I'm not saying that's the case here, but I'm just saying, you know, anytime you do see video on YouTube, you know, don't say these visuals are amazing because it looks this great. You know, take it with a bit of grain of salt. We've seen it with some of the Marvel stuff. The trailers for the Marvel shows, you know, they look great, but then when you watch it, say, on Disney Plus, because that is an optimized experience where they want you to be able to have it at the full, you know, resolution to see all the detail. That is one of those things where they're going to make sure that it is delivering everything they can. And you are correct, Tabs. It's kind of hard to see things once it gets past a certain viewpoint. So yeah, anytime you see anything YouTube related, even if you're watching this video back, you know, once it's on YouTube, you know, some of the footage that we've been showing isn't going to look the best, because it's a video of a video, right? So it's compressioned and compressioned again, which is why, you know, I throw the links in the chat. So just be aware of anytime you see gameplay footage that, you know, IGN's recorded, or, you know, Game Informer has recorded, or, you know, Nintendo Life has recorded, or Push Square, you know, all those sort of places. They will be compressed, and every company also exports their video slightly differently. So, you know, IGN may export, you know, 1080p 60 frames a second, but they'll use a different codec to, say, Eurogamer, who will export 1080 60, you know, but their codecs will be different, so the quality will be slightly different. The only people that I would say, you know, pay attention to things visually is Digital Foundry, because that's what they focus on. They specialize in that sort of deep dive analysis of, you know, the performance and the visuals. But they do that after the game's released, based on the actual, you know, finalized game itself. So yeah, just take any pre-recorded video, you know, with a grain of salt. Another game that got a release date during the Gamescom, you know, news rush was Sonic Frontiers. So Sonic Frontiers is releasing on November 8th for all platforms. It was sort of, you know, theorized that maybe it would be delayed because the reaction was quite bad early on. It seems Sega are content to release this game on this year as planned. It is playable at Gamescom, so people are playing the game. Some people are enjoying it, some people are not enjoying it. You know, some people love the fact that you get to revisit locations from earlier Sonic games. And by earlier Sonic games, I don't mean like Sonic and the Black Knight from the Wii, but like Sonic Generations and Sonic... the one where he and the princess kiss. I can't think what that one that's called in a moment. But yeah, so there's a lot of sort of, you know, updates to sort of levels from classic Sonic games. I'm not a Sonic fan. I don't think they're very good games. I think they're extremely boring. You basically just hold forward and then occasionally jump. Even if you play the original Sonic games, they're still not very fun. To me, they're the original Endless Runner. I'm not a fan of them. I never will be a fan of them, but that's me. This one, you know, the world outside those levels still looks very, very bland. It looks very basic. You know, who knows what it'll be like once the game's out and once people are playing it in full, not a dev build. But yeah, as part of the news that it is coming out, we did get a new trailer that focuses on the story as much as they can without spoiling things. But that's pretty much it. We got the release date and the new story trailer. In the world of pirates, we actually got a release date for Return to Monkey Island. So this is one that I'm very, very excited for. I'm a massive Monkey Island fan. You can't see it, but I have a Guybrush Threepwood statue behind me. It's from the the limited run games Monkey Island collection that they released, before that was completely blown out of the water by a new game being announced. So Guybrush Threepwood, Elaine Marley, LeChuck, Wally, Murray, and all the gang will be available for PC and Switch players on September 13th. September 19th. So as part of that, we got a new trailer featuring Stan. Stan is, in the first game, he's a boat salesman. In the second game, he's a coffin salesman. So he sort of bounces around job to job. That is there. I won't play it because it is very, audio heavy because it's narrated by Stan. I still think, Guybrush's head looks a little weird. It's just a little bit too long, but I, love the visuals. I think it's looking amazing. The one thing that the game does is if you buy the game, you'll be given the Horse Armor DLC for your character to have. Now, the Horse Armor DLC does nothing. There are no horses to ride. There are no horses to put armor on. There's not even a fake horse in a window in a shop window that you can decorate. It does nothing. It just takes up a slot in your inventory. Which is exactly the type of thing that I'd expect from Monkey Island. For them to offer up, DLC horse armor, and it do nothing at all, which makes perfect sense for the series. I know some people have been asking about if it's going to get a retail release, because it is a Devolver Digital game and they do physical releases for some games. There's nothing confirmed yet. It is still a digital-only title for PC and Switch. Obviously, it is expected to come to more platforms in the new year, but we don't know what they are yet. If they do a physical release, some people have been speculating it would be limited run games because limited run games have done a lot with LucasArts or Lucasfilm Games, with all the Star Wars games, the Monkey Island collection, as I mentioned. They're doing a Manic Mansion collection as well. So a lot of people have been speculating it'll be them, but Devolver Digital, who are the publisher, they have a deal with strictly limited games, and they do a lot of their physical releases through them. So if it does happen, I'm leaning to the strictly limited because that is who Devolver, who have the publishing rights to this game, are working. They work with. I'm very, very excited for it. I know some people are very, very excited for it as well. I know someone who's planning on buying it on every platform he can get his hands on because he's a bigger fan than I am, and I'm a big fan of the series. We also got the news of one game announced earlier in the week and one game announced during it, both from 2K. One was expected because we knew it was coming, and one was expected because it was leaked, the day before. But the first one we're going to talk about is PGA Tour 2K23. I almost said 2K13, then we're going back in time, it seems. So PGA Tour 2K13. PGA Tour 2K23 is the new entry from HB Studios in the PGA Tour 2K series. So HB Studios started up a number of years ago. They made a game called the Golf Club and then the Golf Club 2. They also then did the Golf Club featuring the PGA that 2K helped out with some development support. Then they partnered up to develop PGA Tour 2K21, and then 2K bought the studio out. So they own the studio and they're just making golf games. What is interesting about this one is that it is, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC like 21, but no Switch. So Switch is not included anymore. So if you want realistic golf, the only version you can have is the 21 release. Now, what they've done is they have an announcement trailer featuring a bunch of pro golfers and all that sort of stuff doing silly things because they're, well, who knows what he's on, but they're not actors, they're golfers. But it's more the big tag is that it's about being your own legend, right? So one of the things that is interesting, as you would have saw, is Christopher McDonald is still around. They brought him in for the last game to sort of promote it leading up to the launch. He is the actor that brought Shooter McGavin. Yeah, from Happy Gilmore. The fact that he is a golf fan as well doesn't hurt. But yeah, it's a cool little thing. What is interesting, about this one, so there's new courses as well. So all the courses from the previous game will be returning. There's new courses, there's new tours. So there were a couple of cups in the last one. So it's the FedEx Cup and this one. I said there's new courses to play on. There's new gear to wear from Nike Golf, Cobra, Mizuno, all that sort of stuff. Tiger Woods is obviously on the cover. He is actually an executive producer on it, helping out HP Studios with the development of the game, ensuring that what is included is as accurate as it can be. And if you pre-order the game through the standard edition, the deluxe edition, or the digital only Tiger Woods edition, you get Michael Jordan as well. So you get to play golf as Michael Jordan, and then obviously in NBA 2K23 he is also there as well. So Michael Jordan is all over sports this year, it seems. But yeah, it's another entry in the game. The only thing we don't know yet is how many, if any, of the courses that players have made in the course creator mode from 2K21 will carry over to this game. I honestly expect they will, because the courses from the golf club did carry across to 2K21. Not all of them, because there were some assets that didn't make the jump, so they cut that. But the a good majority of them did. So as long as the assets are still the same, I would hope to see some of them jump across. But given that a lot of players puts a big amount of time into creating custom courses, it would be a shame to lose that as it going forward. The other game that 2K announced during the week is new Tales from the Borderlands. Now, I say that they announced it. Technically, they didn't announce it. It was announced back in March, I think it was, or April, at PAX East. Gearbox were on stage. They had Randy Pitchford there talking about the game, talking about Borderlands and bits and pieces. And he said, no, we have a new Tales from the Borderlands game coming that we've developed internally. This is that game. So it is coming on October 13th for all platforms. So that is, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. It is developed by Gearbox. It's coming to all the platforms, as it's developed by Gearbox Quebec. So Gearbox Quebec is one of the newest studios in the Gearbox family. It is a startup studio for Gearbox. They didn't buy a company and rename it, but it is there. So unlike the first game where it was Reese and Fiona, this one is Anu, Octavio, and Fran. So this is Anu. This is Fran. She owns a Frogut diner, and then that is Octavio, Anu's brother. We don't know if this is, being released episodically like the first one, if it's going to be an all-in-one package or anything like that. They've not said anything about that. Gearbox are hosting another main theatre presentation at PAX West next weekend. So we should get some more details from it there. What is interesting is the game's coming out in two versions, the standard and the deluxe edition. The only reason to get the deluxe, and I have to stress this, the only reason to get the deluxe is that it does come with Tales from the Borderlands. So if you do not own the first game, you can buy that today on all the platforms. If you want to have everything in the one package, you can wait until October when this is released, and it will come included in the deluxe. So that is for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. Now, what is something to be aware of? The Xbox and PlayStation versions, and I think PCs as well, is that you'll get the game at the time of pre-order for those platforms. If you order the deluxe, you'll get the first game included then. Switch players will get the first game in the deluxe on the day of release of the second. So October 21st when the game releases, you'll get both Tales from the Borderlands and new Tales from the Borderlands on the same day on Switch from the deluxe. If you do get the game at retail, The only way to get new Tales from the Borderlands at retail is to get the deluxe edition. They're not doing the standard in stores. It'll only be digital. But the deluxe will come with both new Tales and the first Tales, and it'll be a code in the box for Tales from the Borderlands. So you'll get new Tales from the Borderlands on your disc or cartridge, and then if you'll get a code in the box to redeem Tales from the Borderlands. If you already own Tales from the Borderlands, you can give that code off to a friend. There's no need to redeem it twice. But yeah, that's it for that one. So the thing is, they did get some Telltale alums in to help with some bits and pieces from the game itself. Nothing massive, but as I said, we don't know a lot of details about it yet, but that should come in the next week or so. Right, that means we're done with the news. We're going to talk about the games coming out over the next 7 days. As always, today's the 26th of August, and we generally don't have games drop on the weekend outside of random streams and showcases, which may happen this weekend and next weekend with PAX. But that means we are looking at what is available starting on the 28th of August, which is Monday, through to the 2nd of September, which is next Friday. So it is a big day on Tuesday, the 30th. Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. My apologies. So on Tuesday, the 30th of August, we will see Commandos 3 HD Remaster come to Xbox and PC. It'll be launching into Xbox or Game Pass for both platforms. It will also be available on PC, on PlayStation and Switch, but there's no date for those versions yet. We'll also get Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, which is the remake of Destroy All Humans 2. That is coming to PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. F1 Manager 2022 will see its regular release on the 30th. It did release today via Early Access if you did pre-order like the deluxe edition of that game. Immortality will be available for PC, Mac, Xbox, and mobile phones next week. That is the FMV game where you have to sort of dive into the footage to try and find clues to determine what happened to an actress. Inscription will have its PlayStation release next week. That is already available on PC. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection is launching next Tuesday as well for all the platforms, and Tinykin will be available on all platforms next week. My review for that should be up maybe tomorrow, if not sometime on Sunday. I've been playing it for the last week and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. On the 31st, we will see the release of Skate for PC. That is so it's not a retro inspired shooter, but it's sort of an old school shooter. So it hasn't devolved itself visually to be 100% original Doom look, but it's kind of like not quite full 3D. It looks very, very cool. We have someone playing that at the moment, so we'll have a review for that one up as well pretty soon. Moving into September, so on Thursday the 1st of September, Anno Mutationum will finally arrive on Switch on that day. It is out on other platforms already. We'll also see Ooblets come to Switch and Xbox on the 1st. So that game is out on PC now. It's finally just making its jump to other platforms. It was announced for Switch back in February. It's been relatively silent since then, so it's nice to see it have a date. Finally, on Friday the 2nd, we will see JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R come to all the consoles. So that's Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. PC players will actually get that a day earlier on the 1st. So if you have the PC, if you have a PC and you want the game, you'll get that on the 1st. Console players get it on the 2nd. Lego Brawls will also see release for all platforms on the 2nd. Ooblets has been on PC for a while, Tabs. So Lego Brawls is coming out. That is essentially like a Smash Brothers type-esque brawler, just set within the various Lego worlds. Prinny presents NIS Classics Volume 3 will be getting its release on the 2nd. Actually, no. Hang on, I think that's the 4th. No, the 7th, I think. NIS America do a really weird thing where the game will release in Japan, and then 6 months later it'll come to the West. They release it over the period of like 2 weeks. So, if America gets the game today, Europe may get it next Friday, and then Oceanica, which is Australia, will get it like the week after that. So those dates are always a little mixed up. And obviously, The Last of Us Part 1, the remake for PlayStation 5, is also coming out on the 2nd. I've also been playing that as well, and I'll have a review up for that when the embargo lifts. But that is that is the next week in games. It is going to be a very, very big week purely because there's a lot of games coming out. The 30th is going to be absolutely loaded with content. I have been playing, as I said, Tinykin. I also have the Cowabunga collection, and I'm also playing Last of Us. So I am very busy at the moment with reviews. That also doesn't account for the Devil Within Me, the Devil in Me preview that went up overnight, the Splatoon 3 hands-on that went up, the She-Hulk review that I did, the Saints Row review that I did, and of course all the Gamescom coverage. So it has been a very, very busy week here. But yeah, that of course now brings us to the end of the show for the week. We record these live every Friday at 7 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time. So that is 7 p.m. on Sydney time. I hate to say it, but we are fast approaching daylight savings kicking in. So that means the times will be slightly different for some parts of the country. But it'll still be 7 o'clock Sydney time for, those in those regions. We'll be back on Tuesday with more Games Bond. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do it the week just gone because of, some other things that I had going on. Just sort of ran out of steam, just didn't have the energy to play a game and stream. So we'll be back on Tuesday for that. We'll be back next week for more of the Maxi-Geek Show, where we'll probably catch up with a lot of the news from Gamescom that will come out over the next couple of days still as the show goes on, and maybe a bit of stuff leading into PAX East. West, PAX West. It's the one in Seattle. But until then, until we see you online next time, happy gaming.